All right, man. We are live here on YouTube, and it is Broncos NFL Draft Talk, my favorite part of the season. I know that my buddy Jeremy, who I'm glad is joining me tonight, it's his favorite part of the year as well, man. And so, Jeremy, welcome, man. How you doing, bro?
Good, man. I'm doing good. Doing real well.
Good, good. Yeah. So, I know that you've been doing some work yourself, kind of on the draft itself, and talking about different ways. I mean, obviously, it's such a fluid situation. I think. The NFL free agency has a lot to do with the draft itself. But I guess before we really get into the draft, what would you like to see from the Broncos? I guess from a philosophical standpoint in free agency, if you have any kind of ideas or thoughts about it, just from like maybe positions that you want to see them take care of.
Yeah, that's what's hard about this one because there's so many exciting prospects in the draft that you're like, oh, I want to fill that with the draft. But then at the same time, it's like, well, what if it doesn't fall your way? And now you're really setting
Exactly.
yourself up. I
Yep.
think the one position that I would like to address in the draft, but also free agency, just because it will probably take a player a little while to get up to speed, is linebacker. I think that probably is one of those ones that you need to have somebody ready to go. You don't need them learning
Yeah.
during the season, and then have like maybe the guy waiting in the wings behind him to learn from, and maybe even two guys. Because I mean, just depends on where Singleton is with his like recovery, and if you want him back, and if you want what you think about your two linebackers that you finished the season with, Cody and Justin Chanad. So that's the main one that I feel like has to be addressed. I could see D line being addressed too if you don't want to re-sign DJ Jones, if you want to go somewhere else.
Yep.
I mean he's making 10. I don't know if you wanted to re-sign him, if he would stay around the same cost or if it would be a little lower. I like DJ Jones. I think he's kind of like, people don't talk about him. I think he kind of gets behind in Zach Allen's and all these other people, but
Hmm.
that's a place that I think they might have an eye on somebody. It all depends on what other teams do. It's I think what I've noticed about Sean Payton and George Payton is they like do a good job of zeroing in who they want, and they don't talk about it. And then as soon as free agent opens, it's not the big ticket guy. Part of it is because we didn't have the money, but like they were like Brandon Jones day one, let's get him. And they had a idea of the kind of player he's going to be.
Hmm.
And that was a great move, at least, in year one. So
Yeah.
I like the
And
way they kind of attack it.
Yeah, and I appreciate I appreciate the personnel moves that we did year too, like the NFL player personnel. I think the signing of Cody Rager was something that wasn't really talked about enough, because I think he did such a good job of just being able to find these diamond in the rough dudes that really fit and had a vision. And so I'm excited to see who they do this year. I think it's funny because there are some good, really intriguing linebacker free agents, but it's also a really deep draft for linebackers as well in the draft. And I agree with you, because sometimes those guys take a little bit longer to develop and go how you want. I think Lavelle Bailey is someone that's really intriguing on the team. But like I know the two big names are like Dre Greenlaw and Nick Bolton. Do you have any kind of preference between one of those guys?
I probably don't know enough about their games, like the differences between their games, to say I have a preference. The one thing that always is nice about getting a rival is poaching, like making the other team weaker while you make your team stronger. And they know a lot about that team. They know how to defend that. Like I mean, there's something to be said about somebody who like knows. If you sign Nick Bolton, he knows how Patrick Mahomes plays. He knows what he wants to do. He knows how he audibles and checks, and he knows all those things.
Yeah.
That's a really valuable thing, I think. So, um, if saying those two were even, I would prefer him. But if they prefer, Greenlaw, then or somebody else, like that's fine.
Yeah.
Um, but that's one of those things where it's just like I always remember, like going back to the first Super Bowl, when we got Neil Smith and he was going against the Chiefs, and there's just like something about it, and I like having those guys that feel like have this extra juice to play the teams that you really want to beat too. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, same thing with like somebody like a Justin Reed, right? I think he'd be a really good safety fit
Yeah,
here. But having those ties and bringing some guys in that just know how to win, man, from a winning culture
for sure.
is super important. I mean, I think we've seen it with like Mike McGlinchey and I mean Brandon Jones had a little bit of experience with that in the past, but I mean a lot of the Sean Payton guys from New Orleans. I think it's so important to going into the draft. The last thing that you want, you don't like, and I can almost assure that this will happen with, especially with George and Sean Payton running the show, is we're not going to go in with like a blatantly big need. Like that's why I'm so confident that we're going to address like running back, for example,
Yeah.
in free agency, tight end to some extent, like a Juwan Johnson in free agency, linebacker, because then you don't want to go in there and be like, man, like let's say, for a scenario like a Jeanty's there,
Yeah,
but then you feel like you have a bigger need at like tight end, and you're just like, oh, I'm going to pass upon him to reach for somebody else. You don't want to find yourself like desperate.
definitely.
So,
You're right. I think
and
it does feel like we've gone into drafts pretty like there wasn't a glaring like we have to get this one position. They do a good job of kind of like letting you go BPA.
yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And David from David Talks Broncos plus NFL Draft Man, be sure to check out his channel. Obviously, subscribe if you're not already. He's got a awesome content, but he's got a really great new partnership that he has with a company called Guru, and they have some of the most legitimate like cut-ups of NCAA players that you'll see. You don't find it in a lot of different places. When you do, it's tough. You got to kind of surf through and try to find the plays that you're looking for. His subscription allows for you to like find specific players and tapes that are cut up on guys in particular. So it makes the scouting a lot easier. So really looking forward to using some of that game film for the stuff that I'm doing as well. But yeah, so I mean, let's get into the draft, right? So let's say we're getting into the draft and we don't have any kind of blatant, obvious big needs like we had talked about.
Okay.
And you have a scenario where let's say Tyler Warren's available at 20 and Ashton Jeanty's available at 20, right? Between those two guys. And I think it's a very unrealistic scenario at this point, but you never know, because the good thing is running back and tight ends are always positions in the draft that kind of tend to slide a little bit. So there's a small chance it happens, but you're talking about those two guys. Who are you choosing if you make the call?
Oh, Jeanty or Warren?
Yeah.
Man, I'm going to be honest. If you give me the chance to pick Jeanty, I'm probably going to pick Jeanty. Like, it's just, a part of me is like, I just remember like the days with Terrell Davis. You know what I mean? It's hard to like say you could have one of the best. Like, look at Saquon right now. If you have a chance to get like, who knows what's going to turn out, but right now he looks like a generational one of those backs that's just special. I mean, when you're competing with Barry Sanders for the all-time rushing record in college, like, say less. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a chance to get that guy and pair him with Bo Nix, and he can do everything, he can catch, he can pass protect, he has a low center of gravity. Like, I just would go for. I mean, tight end's important, and Warren is an absolute stud, but man, I just don't think I could pass on Jeanty.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree with you on this one, just because I think Genty's like so unbelievably special.
Right.
But I keep going back to it, like, show me the last 10 Super Bowl teams that won it, right? And I can almost assure, or like the ones that have been close, the really consistently good teams in the NFL. I would say a majority, if not all of them, have a very good to elite tight end, like a very productive tight end, but not necessarily a really elite or productive running back. They just have like somebody that's kind of good enough.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean that like that's how you should go, but when you talk about the overall importance of position, that's the thing that always makes me like not so much worried about running back, but it's more like, can you wait and still get somebody in the second round, like an Omarion Hampton or something that's really, really good. But I mean, in this particular situation, it's so unique because of how just how much of a game changer I think Ashton Jeanty is. I would certainly agree with you.
The thing with
in that sense for sure.
The thing with this draft that's so like interesting is like I'm not even a guy who want to draft a running back early. Like you can find them later. Like there's so many guys that have fell. So I'm not one of those like, oh, we got to get the crazy. But it's just like it's just because it's this one person that I feel is like extra special. But if you gave me option 2, like let's say Tyler Warren is off the board, Ashton Jeanty's off the board, which there's a good chance that's the way it's actually going to be. Then I'm probably leaning tight end because there's deeper running backs. So it's not. It just happens to be because of him, not because of the position. Yeah. So, and I think there's more running backs than there's tight ends in this. For sure. And
tight end is definitely a pretty stacked too. But I would agree. I think there's a lot more project-based tight ends rather than like plug-and-play guys to come in. And another thing too, I really get intrigued by it is like a true slot receiver, right? Because I feel like if you get somebody like one of the free agents, if I could choose any of the free agents to bring into Denver after thinking about it for a while, it would be Chris Godwin. Because I feel like what Chris Godwin can do for you is he could essentially add an element to your receiving core that's very much missing, that can open it up for guys like Mims more. It can open it up even more for Sutton. And he can almost replace the production of a tight end without actually being a tight end, right? And so I think taking that same type of approach going into, into the draft would be the same thing, right? Like if in a really likely scenario, if Jeanty's not there, Tyler Warren's not there, but you can get like a Luther Burden or a Emeka Egbuka, that can still almost be like, all right, now we're not as desperate to maybe get a tight end until maybe later in the draft if you still wanted to get somebody, and it can fill a little bit of a different need. Right. Whereas with running back. So we were talking before we got on, and I really liked what you had said. Let me see. I know Kodiak, dude. I feel you.
I didn't know this. So that's crazy.
I feel you, man. It happened a little bit. I was gonna make a video on it, but we had this live, so I'll put something out for the Avs, man. But I couldn't believe the Miko trade. There's a lot of people that are really like smart hockey people, because I love hockey. I'm not good with like the whole like transactions and what this person, how they fit. Yeah. They said it was an overall decent move, or like a move that kind of had to happen and it was good. But yeah, we'll see. But glad that we can help take your mind off it, man, for sure.
Yeah. And Kodiak, shout out. I love watching your videos, man.
You're awesome,
your content, dude.
Agreed. I second that. Follow Kodiak Broncos podcast if you guys aren't already, man. He's awesome. Up and comer for sure. I love it. And so we were talking about like different scenarios, right? So if you had a situation where you could get, I'm going to make it a little bit tricky on you. I want to see what your thoughts are.
Okay.
Let's say you have the ability to choose Emeka Egbuka in the first round, and then you could get Harold Fannin in the second. And then that means you have to wait, later for a running back.
Okay.
Or you can get Colston Loveland in the first, and then someone like a Travion Henderson in the second. Where would you go with that?
Colston and Travion versus Emeka and who'd you say?
Travion Henderson. I know, I'm going to forget too. I should probably write this down.
No, you said the first scenario was
Emeka Egbuka and Harold Fannin.
Oh, man. I mean, I'm not really mad at either scenario, to be honest with you. Like, I like all those players. Here's the thing with Harold Fannin, okay? Dude's an absolute freak monster at Bowling Green. Anybody, if you put on his tape, it is insane just to watch. Like, he had 100 and some catches this year. I mean, it's just like was insane. That being said, he's smaller. He's 6'3", 230. That's smaller. I mean, although you look at Brock Bowers, the same size. But there's not very many Brock Bowers that are doing that at that size. And so you can't really inline block him. He's kind of like a different type of a threat. But if Sean Payton likes Harold Fannin, I'm 110% in, because he has a plan for him, and he has a reason why he's like, oh, this dude, like this is my, he always talks about Joker. Like if he drafts Harold Fannin, it's like when he drafted Bo. I personally love Bo. But as soon as I saw Sean Lovebo, then I'm doubly
Yeah.
excited because I'm like, oh, he knows exactly what he wants to do. So if he goes Harold Fannin, then I'm 100% in. But I wouldn't be surprised if teams are afraid of it just because the size and he's not like a traditional like blocking tight end, a bunch of other stuff. He's a very good blocker. I've heard some people say he's not a good blocker just because he's not
Oh, he
like,
is. Oh,
but
he'll
he
get down and
blocks his
dirty.
butt off.
Yeah, he
Um,
does.
and Amika
He's one
Buka
of
is
my
very
favorite. He's one of
intriguing.
my favorite.
He is
Yeah.
like you watch it and he just is a freak, man. Um, Amika Buka is very intriguing too because I could just see him being one of those guys that's just a solid, like really good slot guy for your 12, 13 seasons. Like he
Mhm.
just has that kind of, you know, thing about him where he just is he just plays like a pro level and he's just so consistent, you know? So yeah, I can't be mad. And if you're gonna have to wait on one position, running back, I guess a lot of people think that there's gonna be 10 running backs drafted in like the first 60 picks, maybe 75 picks, whatever. But there's going to be some people. There's going to be some running backs drafted past the second round, third round in this draft that are going to be very, very good.
Yeah.
So, um,
Yeah, no, I would agree. It's crazy, man. When I was watching well, Harold Fannin, first of all, the
yeah.
guy, he's just wild. He's crazy. Like he's so good. He's like always plays with his hair on fire. And then he goes into they go to Penn State and they almost beat him. And he goes crazy against Penn State. And then they played another big time college too. I don't know if it was Texas A&M or somebody else from the SEC, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he went nuts against them too. Like, so the competition thing is out of it.
It was
I
Penn
would
State.
I would agree with you because I feel like if it would, yeah, he went crazy against Penn State. But I feel
Mm-hmm.
like if Sean Payton selected him, he would have to have a plan. But like that's the thing is I worry so much is like he cannot be so stubborn to be like, hey, Harold, we love what you can do, but you have to learn how to block.
Right.
Like, no, dude. Maybe he's good at it, maybe he's capable, but you just got to get this guy the ball in his hand.
Right. That was my point. It's like don't just draft him as your tight end 3 and just assume he's going to be like Adam Troutman and just plug him in. You need to have a specific idea, but Sean Payton is so good at like, oh, I have this one player with this one specific skill set. Okay, well, I'm going to showcase it like Taysom Hill and all these other people. So I mean, I'm not worried that Sean would do that, but I think if Harold Fan goes to the wrong place, people will be like, I thought this guy was supposed to be good. He's not the. It's like if you use him wrong, you're not going to get the impact out of him. But if you use him correctly, I can see him being like one of those people that people are like, how is this guy not a first round pick? So
Yeah. No,
yeah.
he's a freak. And I think to myself, even though like in a way Emeka Ibuka and Harold Fannin would kind of both be like the slot guys in a way, like they would in a way play a similar role, I guess, as weird as that sounds. Dude, I can't even imagine like you have Cortland on the outside, you got Vele on the outside, you got like Mims lined up in the backfield, you got Harold Fannin, and you got Emeka Ibuka, like guys that can just beat you in a multitude of ways. You can get really creative with that. So that's what I want to see because even though we've improved so much, we've gotten so much better, we're still lacking, I think, a lot of speed on both sides of the football. And I just want to be that, like, I want to add that explosion as well as to the offense and the defense, quite frankly, as we used to. And let's see what Kodiak says. He says, problem with the Warren dream is I feel like he's more likely to be a riser than even being within striking range within our pick number 20. I agree. And there's two teams specifically that I feel like really could need a tight end.
Every single mock draft I've seen, one certain team is mocking Warren every single time.
Yeah.
And that's the Indianapolis Colts at
14.
Yeah,
to Indy. Yep, Indy. And then I saw another one. Indy was the main one. There was another one that I saw where he went to New Orleans, which, would make sense given they're probably going to lose Juwan Johnson. They have no money. And what's his name? Oh, God, I'm like drawing a blank. We just talked about him. Let me go back up here. Taysom Hill. Yeah, Taysom Hill was, might be gone there too. So those are two places where he can make a lot of sense. I'm kind of just hoping that like he doesn't really have a good combine, or he maybe runs a little bit slower or something,
Nah,
and
that's
scares
not
some
gonna happen.
teams.
Because here's the thing about Tyler Warren. Okay, so he was going into this season. People were like, he's maybe like tight end 7, tight end 6, tight end 8, somewhere around there. And then he just went insane this season. But here's the thing: he didn't play tight end in high school, and so there was like a learning curve. And his whole family, I mean, his mom, his dad, his sister, everybody in his family is like this insane athlete. So yeah, he's not going to test bad at the combine. He's like, his lineage is like insane. He was a quarterback, and those guys turn into tight ends, and then all of a sudden it takes, he flipped the switch this year and
He
was
did.
just like, oh my gosh, this guy's insane. So yeah, I totally agree. I don't think Warren's going to be there. I think there's more chance Jeanty will be there than Warren, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I just think he's going to keep rising and rising. And we need to figure out how old he is, man, because you found a thing that said he was 24. Was
Dude,
that wrong?
it's so weird. Yeah, like I looked up something. I had to Google it because they didn't list it. And then I was like, why aren't they listing it? So I went on to a bunch of different sites trying to find it. Finally found one that said it. I sent you guys a text about it, and I was like, this dude's 24? Like he's gonna be 25. Like what? That's like just to put in perspective, Fannin and Colston Loveland are 20, like
Yeah,
early, like 20 and a half, like not even like almost 21.
yeah,
And then you see this and you go, oh, well, gosh, give Colston Loveland 4 more years and is it going to, is it going to be the same? So, and then you looked it up and you found one that said he was 22, which
and now I'm seeing other things that say he's 22, but it's the nothing. It's like nothing that
it's
I don't
hard. Why
know.
is this information so hard to get?
I feel like if he is 24, that'll actually increase our chances pretty highly of getting him at
Yeah,
20.
I agree.
Um, but yeah, so if someone in the comments, if one of y'all know or can see
I
something
just,
like exactly how old he is, like I said, I have a hard time believing he's 24 because I feel like it would have been talked about.
yeah. And I did the math on when he was in college, when he was in high school and like on the years. And I was like, okay, if he's a senior in this year, then he probably would be either 17 or 18 and blah, blah, blah. So I think he's more likely to be 22 than he is to be 24, unless something like there was some weird thing that, but from going off of when he was in high school, I think he's probably more like 22.
Yeah. And so yeah, so I think so too. And we'll have to look into that for sure. In terms of the other tight ends, there's quite a bit in this draft. Is there anybody that you've kind of looked into that you're, kind of caught your eye or your attention at all?
Yeah, I mean, okay, we talked about Colson Loveland. Obviously, like he didn't have as good a year as he did like the year before, but that's partly because um their quarterback and their whole offense was completely like different. And their quarterback was like less than accurate, we'll say, and he still had a very good year, even though, I mean, you put on the 2023 tape and you go, oh my gosh, the 2023 tape, in my opinion, looks better than the 2024 tape. So anybody who just kind of like watches highlights or whatever, they'll be like, I don't know if this is really worth a first round pick. But he proved a lot, and dude's solid, good size, good height, good everything. So I mean, I like Colson Loveland a lot. And then we talked about Harold Fannin, the guy who I kind of sleeper kind of when I just watch his tape, like just watch his athleticism and stuff, is the tight end out of Miami, Elijah Arroyo. This guy is like PFF has him ranked 80th overall, 6'4", 245. He got hurt like 2022, 2023. Didn't play a lot of games. And then this last season just had a really good year. And if you watch like Gunnar Helm, who's like a lot of people talk about this guy, and he's got this huge size. He's really good after the catch, but he's very like stiff. Elijah Arroyo looks to me when you just watch his tape, you just go, oh, this guy's like an athlete. Like this guy just reminds me of somebody who has a way high ceiling of, like a Julius Thomas. Just like put him in there and he's just going to get open. And he didn't drop very many, but I think he dropped like 2 balls the whole year on targets. And there's a lot to like about him. I mean, if the medicals are always going to, play a part in that, like if they're pretty confident in that there was just some stuff that happened and he's not like injury prone, then yeah, I think he's kind of like one of those guys I would be really
Big
interested
time.
in.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of really interesting things with him, for sure, man. He's a good player, and I like the fact that like he'll be 2 years removed from the ACL coming into the draft, but he was someone that a lot of these draft gurus were hyping up pretty big. I think he's going to be at the Senior Bowl, so that'll be a big week for him. But yeah, Elijah Arroyo for sure. He stood out to me a lot, and I think that there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of guys where I'm like, man, I feel like Sean Payton would really like him, like in the mid rounds, to be like a blocking tight end with some potential upside. But there was a dude, and I'm trying to find his name because I know that he. I actually saw him because I was like looking at the tape of. I think it might have been. I think it was when I was doing the film review for Dylan Sampson. So I think it was the guy from on Tennessee.
Okay.
But his last name was Gatson, I believe. I don't know why I can't seem to find him. And maybe they have him as like I don't know. Maybe have like as a receiver or something. But he was freaking. Yeah, his name is Aronde Gatson, and
Aronde Gatson. Yeah.
Yeah, and he might not have even. I don't even know if he's going into the draft. I think he's draft. I know he's draft eligible. And I think I heard somewhere that he is. So I really got to look into it. But it was really brief. But he's someone that, man, he's like a big receiver. He's listed at 6'5", 236.
Yeah.
But this dude is like kind of a borderline freak of nature too. So just someone to kind of look into as well. I couldn't even find him on PFF for whatever reason.
PFF has him 191 in the overall.
Oh, they do have him. Okay.
Yeah.
In the overall, just the rankings in general.
Yeah, and the overall rankings in general.
In
the
grades,
the 191st player right now.
Okay. Yeah. No. That makes sense. I feel like because I remember they were saying like he's a day, maybe day 2, but most likely a day 3 guy.
Mm-hmm.
But he looked good on the tape that I was watching. I didn't even really mean to watch him. I was like, who the hell is this dude? And then I ended up figuring out, and he's pretty good too. And then in terms of the running backs, man, there's a lot of them. There's a ton of running backs. Is there anybody that really stands out to you in terms of on the running back room, like maybe mid to late round guys, or I guess aside from like the obvious guys like the Jeantys and
right.
There's a whole group there.
Real quick before we go to running backs, the other tight end that I think would be a perfect fit, and he's not like, there's nothing about him that's like overall like, oh my gosh, this guy's gonna blow your mind, but like he's solid at everything and already day one can step in and be a guy on the field and comfortable with Bo is Terrence Ferguson. Also went to Heritage here, local kid, and he's got good size. He played really well with Bo. Bo went to him a lot of times at Oregon. And so he's just a guy that that's like your back pocket. Like if we're going to double dip at tight end, if you somehow, if you dropped one early, I would love to have Terrence Ferguson as well. Cause man, if he's your tight end 2, or if you like, let's say you go with like a Fannin, who's more of like very specific type of tight end, you could put Ferguson in and he could do everything. So that's one that I don't sleep on him. I could see them really liking him. As far as running backs go, the running backs, there's a lot. I'm leaning towards, I would love to have just like the bell cow. You can give him 20 to 25. I don't know if Sean Payton will ever give anybody 25 carries.
Yeah.
But like you could. I just look, to me, it's like the thing about having a guy is when you get into the cold weather and you get into those games, like when we played against the Jets in that monsoon, if you get into, you have to grind out games and you have to like win that way. We have the offensive line to have a really good run game. And I would like to have a big, strong guy that can push piles and get like the tough 3rd and 2s. And you can just like whatever the defense wants to do, well, we're going to run it and we're going to run it anyway. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. Now, those are the type, like kind of what like Buffalo did to us is just like they saw James Cook just that was going to work, and like they didn't need to do anything crazy. So I lean towards guys that are a little bit bigger, and it's hard not to like people, the Caleb Johnsons, people.
That dude is good, man.
He's just like, it seems like effortless. Like he's so strong, his stiff arm, and then he's always just seems like the thing that makes him when I watch him is like he'll set people up for moves. He's not one of those like fast cut guys or fast like darts, stop, start and stop, start and stop. He just like will do the move at the exact same speed as when he's running full speed. Like there's no like down and up, down. It's just like
He's just butter smooth.
And he runs like so smooth. And when it's hard for people to get angles because he just has to make a little bit of a turn or he sets somebody up and he's run so strong and he's going so fast that it's just like, oh, forget about it. And, he's 225 and like coming out of college at 225, if he ends up being like 230, 235 and he's just like that dude, like that's exciting, and we're going to lose Jeanty, obviously. I still think, you have Jaleel there. Audric, we're hopeful, but the fact that they were like not playing him in the playoff game like gives you a little bit of a I don't think there's something. I don't know if it's just that he's a rookie, maybe, but that's one of those things where you're like, I don't know how much confidence they have in him. I thought he played really well after the first game where he fumbled. I thought I would have liked to see him get way more carries. But they clearly trusted Jeanty in pass pro. And that was the main thing is like, we trust him to pass. So it's like, if you're going to replace the player that you're most trusting in pass pro, I just want a guy that you can also bring in and be big and strong. Now there's a couple of guys, one of your favorite guys who isn't like the biggest back, but man, still can do pass pro because he'll hit you, and is super explosive. But for this draft, there are guys like that. There's a lot of like, also, it seems like lately there's a lot of people kind of like poo-pooing Cam Scadaboo. And I don't know if it's because there was like a little bit of a cheap shot against Colorado. I don't know if it's just like, he's white. I don't know. Or if he's just like one of those try-hard guys, like a Peyton Hillis or something.
Yeah.
But
like Toby Gerhart.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Toby Gerhart. Who's the fullback for the Buccaneers? The Allstott.
Oh, Mike Allstott.
Yeah,
no, that guy was gangster.
Yeah, exactly.
No, he was gangster.
But here's the thing: if I could stick up for Cam Scadaboo a little bit, exactly. The fact that he's white. Let's get the white corners. Let's get the white running backs. Let's get let's go full on if we're gonna really lean into it. The thing about him though that I love is, man, he is just a dog all the way through, and defenses will not want to tackle that guy in the fourth quarter. He will wear them out after a certain point. Now, I would have a little bit of worry about, can he hold up playing the style that he does? But man, he plays Marshawn Lynch ball like out there, and he has really good balance. He does not go down. So David's saying the hype got a little out of hand. But here's the thing. It's like when he did everything for Arizona State, and look how far he got them. I mean, and this dude was not he got no offers coming out of high school. This dude is a lunch pail, grinded out, give it to me and get out of the way type of guy. And I like the edge. I think that our team lacked edge over the last few seasons. I felt like we had some this season, like a Brandon Jones as opposed to like a Simmons or something like that. And we had some players that had it, but man, on offense, I want that guy barking at the other team. I just like those type of guys. It's almost like a Bill Romanowski. When he's on your team, you love him, but if he's not on your team, you hate that guy. Mm-hmm. Max Crosby type of attitude, or like a Aqib Talib type of guy. I just like those guys. Now I don't know if it would be hard for me to think that Caleb Johnson is going to be drafted behind Cam Scatterboo, but
No, yeah, I'd be
like
shocked.
PFF has Scatterboo at 46 and they have Caleb Johnson at 50. Or I'm sorry, they have Caleb Johnson at 53, but I just don't see it probably going that way.
Yeah,
But like if again, that's another guy that if Sean like zeroes in on him and picks him, then I'm like, okay, he has an idea.
I
For
can
what
assure you, Sean is gonna love him though. I
right.
mean, because the thing about Scatterbo, I'm not really super high on him because I feel like trying hard and running aggressively and all that can only get you so far in the NFL, but he can do a lot. You know, he's I don't really know how he is in pass pro. I'm assuming he's probably pretty good in it. He can catch the hell out of the ball. He did have a lot of fumbles, but he also had a shitload of carries.
He did everything.
He's elusive, but like, is he gonna be elusive in the NFL? I don't know what it is, and it's not the fact that like it's a white running back. I really try to take it out of it, but he just, and it could be just a gift of his, but he doesn't seem like he's very athletic at all. But yet sometimes like he's making dudes miss, and so it's like I think he's going to be one of those guys where on some teams' boards he's like a second rounder, and on others he's like a UDFA. Right. I think it's going to be, you know, that much of a range. But in terms of like what Sean Payton has shown to like in running backs, I think he'll like him. I agree with David. I love me some Caleb Johnson. But let me tell y'all, I couldn't believe this because I made a video on LaQuint Allen because he's somebody that I just kind of came across. He led the FBS in catches, and then he ends up, entering into the draft. And I was like, how does this dude, like, no one's talking about him? And I just saw it that this is so awesome, actually, because it's like, oh, somebody else seen it too. And I think it's going to start going up a lot. Mel Kiper actually has him number 3 on his running back board now.
LaQuint Allen?
Yeah.
No
which
way.
Which is wild. But I'm telling you, I'm not surprised because this dude, there's literally nothing, like everything that, like, he can catch the ball well. He can run the hell out of the ball. He's an unbelievable pass protector. He kind of can do everything. He's really, really just well-rounded. So I always felt like for a Broncos fit, he'd be really good. But dude, I think I fell in love with somebody new that I was just starting to look into. And a lot of people know about him. It's Kyle Monangai from Syracuse.
Yeah.
You think Cam Scatterboo runs angry and hard? I've never seen anything like it. This dude is like 205 pounds, 5'9", and he's
like a little bowling ball. He
runs like somebody threatened his family or like slapped his sister or something. I've never seen anything like it. It is unbelievably impressive. And I love the dude, and I'm terrified of how he would like hold up in the NFL because he's just reckless. He doesn't care. Mm-hmm. But I truly have never seen somebody run with that level of like authority and anger, and just he's fun, man. And he seems like a really cool dude. Older prospect, though. He's gonna be 23, which for running back is concerning. But someone, I just wanted to mention it, kind of keep your eyes out on that. And
that's a good one. You know who's a guy that doesn't get talked about a lot either? And Monangai so PFF has Monangai 142nd overall right now. But yeah, like you said, 5'9", 209. He's just a little like scrap dude. Like he's just, he can smell the goal line too. Like, there's some running backs that just like run the exact same, whether it's like you're at like the 50 or if you're at like the 5. He like knows exactly where the goal line is, and he's gonna go harder and harder and harder the closer he gets to it. Like he's just, it's crazy.
No, it's wild. He is so fun to watch, and he's the guy that, like, you talk about, because our running back room is desperate need of an alpha. I mean, desperate need.
That's what I'm saying.
We don't have any, and I think the whole room entirely. I mean, I think if you really want to solve the running back issue, you've kind of got to get rid of almost everyone. Like that means Estime is going to be on the he's going to not be a lock for the roster. I think the only one that I feel confident will like for sure make the team is Jaleel, just because he's like a whatever the coach wants him to do type of guy, and he can come off and be like a backup or whatever. But I don't think he should be the starter if you want to fix it. But man, this dude Kyle Monangai, I think you put him on like kickoff and go tackle somebody, and he might like kill 5 guys in the process. He is awesome, man. He's wild. Yeah. And yeah, it was just I'm having a blast, and I cannot wait to do the film review on him because there's going to be so much where you're just like, holy hell. But then you always got to think there's a reason he's not ranked with the top guys consistently, and he might get to that, but there's always something, and it could be, injuries and age or whatever it might be. But
Right.
but yeah,
I think it all plays in just overall size and age. But
yeah,
you can't. I mean, one of those guys that if we draft him, people are gonna go, "Who's this?" And like weird name or whatever. But then they watch and they go, "Oh boy, this is exciting."
no
The
doubt.
one guy, there's a theme in this draft that I feel like it's in every position. There's a running back, there's a tight end, and there's a receiver that all are former Oregon Ducks that I could see fitting really, really well on this team and
Yeah.
just seamlessly going into. Jordan James, the running back, he's only 20. He is one of those guys that is like, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't get you any negative plays. He's very like sudden and obviously had a very good season on a very good team this year. Bo obviously knows him. I could see him like just he's one of those guys in like fifth round type of guys, but he would be a weapon. He's another guy that runs. He's 5'10", 5'10", 210.
I love that size.
But he runs like he delivers contact. He does not shy away from that. He's very good at taking on multiple guys. He's a tough guy to bring down, and I just like those type of guys.
Yeah.
So I could see him on the back end too. There's a lot of guys that are like third, fourth, fifth round from Oregon that I could just see like, I think people may have cooled on the Oregon players with Franklin just because it's like we expected it to be instant chemistry, and then when it wasn't, people were like, "What the heck?" Yeah. I don't think that's going to be the case with like a Terrence Ferguson, or there's a receiver coming up that we'll probably talk about. That definitely, I think that there is going to be a lot of chemistry there. But it's just interesting to see like the one guy that we didn't get last year that I would have loved to, and he turned out to be an absolute stud, and people were down on him because they were like, Oregon's offense, but was Bucky Irving, and he just showed what he could do.
So
and
good.
You're just like, gosh dang, I would have loved to get him. But I could just, it would be interesting to see if we target those type of guys, or if we're just like, or if we just look at them just like normal prospects.
Yeah. Do you feel like we're on the lookout for like a specific type of back? And the reason I ask is because like you look at this list, there's so many dudes. Like I love Caleb Johnson. I think he's an absolute stud, but I don't know how he necessarily fits with what we're looking for. Unless you're saying like, we're just going to say, it's going to be Caleb Johnson and Jaleel and you're going to go with it. Cause like, I don't know how he is as a pass catcher. I don't know how Sean Payton's going to trust them enough in pass pro. And that makes me worried that it's going to be like, he's going to get Audric Estimate again, type of a thing. So does that play a role into like how you're viewing a lot of these guys? Like another example for me real quick is like Dylan Sampson. I just did a film review on him.
Yeah.
Super, super fun player to watch. Like explosive as all hell. He accelerates like crazy. But the whole time I'm thinking, no chance he fits in with what we want to do here in Denver, because he's not. We need someone that's like can do everything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's
how
I've looked at it.
In free agency, if we get like a Najee Harris or an Aaron Jones or Rico Dowdle or like whatever it is, that could bring a little bit more clarity maybe. But It's like, man, I don't know, because like a lot of these guys are so good, but it's like I don't know how they fit, and that's why for me it's like of all of these guys. Obviously, Ashton Jeanty fits with everybody.
Right.
I think Omarion Hampton would definitely fit, and LaQuint Allen's like one of my favorites. But then of the rest of the guys, it's like no one except for Trevion Henderson I can see is like a legitimately good fit, and that's one of my favorite guys too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just want to kind of get your thoughts on it, and see if there's anybody that you're like, man, I don't see one of these guys, or anybody that's not listed on here.
I think you said it already. I think Dylan Sampson's the guy that is one of those really highly ranked guys that I just don't see the fit as much, just because the size. The thing that's been the problem is like with Jaleel, like every time last season we put him out there, it was like a tell, because it was like, every time he comes out, he's, same with like Mims for a while there. It's like, it was almost like, I want a guy that we don't know what's going to happen, like in my perfect vision of the Broncos going into this next season is I would like, I mean, get Bo Nix weapons, but like in my perfect vision of it, it's like I want 5 options who are all making the teams worry. This season, it was Cortland on third down. They would just bracket him. And then you were like, maybe hit Vele. And,
Yeah.
Mims is like, maybe. And like, it was very little out of Mims or Franklin. But it was like, you have Vele, you have Javante, who's not giving you like anything extra than just like the basic. And you have Cortland. And that it was easy for teams just to like bracket him. And I think even some of those throws where Bo was like forcing it was whatever, is because he was like, there's not a lot of really good options. But like in this one draft, you can get like, just imagine you got Cortland, you got Tez or Numeka
Emeka
in the
Buka.
slot. Yeah, Emeka Buka. You have an Ashton Jeanty or a receiving tight or receiving receiver, like even someone like a Devin Neal or someone who can like just get the ball in their hands. Colston Loveland. These are all people who are like on third down, like you have to account for. We didn't have it at all. We had one guy you had to account for. And you can, in one draft / free agency, you could have 5 guys. And that's what's like really exciting. And Bo Nix is the type of quarterback that his favorite receiver is the open receiver. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he fed Cortland because I feel like he ends up being like the safety blanket. But man, can you imagine Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland or Fannin if he's, getting open, or Tez? Like the thing about Tez is so weird. Going into a receiver real quick is he's so small, but like he gets the most separation out of any player. And if it's 3rd and 8 and you got Cortland, Fannin or Loveland, and then you have Jeanty or Caleb Johnson or Marion Hampton or Travion Henderson in the backfield and Tez as well, and you have a Vele or somebody like that, it's like now teams are really like, you could just pick matchups. And I think that's where Sean's really going to like, show what he can do, because he did such a good job of scheming a lot of stuff for Cortland this season when he was kind of the only option for a long part of the season. So that's what's so exciting, is there's so many guys that it's like, if they have the right plan and they can, if it falls the right way, I could just see them going from, we have one good option to we have 5 good options.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's why, like, I love the idea of a Chris Godwin on this team, because he's a known commodity.
Yep.
And he's someone that he just gets open, man. Emeka Buka, those guys, he gets open, you see it. But Chris Godwin add a huge dynamic, because then it's like defenses are guessing. But you're absolutely right. Being able to get to the point where we don't have to keep switching formations, and even in the Buffalo game, Javante has a great run, the first down, right? First play of the game, he goes for 6 yards, nice hard nose, and then they swap him out. It's like, why are we doing that? So those kind of things that drive you nuts. Hopefully, we can offset that by just bringing in talent. David brings up a point here. He says, one thing I haven't looked into is any of these running back have fumbling issues. The ones on this list that have a lot of fumbles is Cam Scatterbo, but when you look at how many carries he's had, his percentage is like right in line with all the other guys that fumble a lot. Dylan Sampson's got a little bit of a fumbling issue, and RJ Harvey is, from what I know, are guys that like fumbled a little bit more. But I mean, those are things that you can always fix. I think Devin Neal a little bit too, but those are some things that you've actually, in fact, Ashton Jeanty had quite a bit of fumbles, but he also carried the ball a shitload. So those are things that you can typically fix. But yeah,
it's tough to evaluate the guys who like that's the entire offense, just because and the guys that are so good at creating like yards after contact, because they like end up staying up for so long. Like Cam Scatterbo and Ashton Jeanty, just they don't go down, you know. So it's one thing to fumble because you're not strong, or like like a Dylan Sampson's a small guy, and so you could see him like fumbling if he gets hit or whatever. But It's the other guys that are off balance, like getting hit one way, like turning your body, and then the ball is getting hit it's just that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah.
But it's a good point. It's a good thing to be aware of because the one thing I will say this season that really helped us is we didn't fumble a lot. Bo didn't fumble. I don't think Jeanty. I don't remember like
He
the
did.
one
He had
time.
one fumble.
Yeah,
He fumbles at the worst time. I swear to God, he'll never fumble when we have like a 30-point lead. He'll fumble
Right.
like a 4th and 1 in a one-score game. It's crazy.
Right. And then Audric had the 2 fumbles like right away, and then like was good the rest of the year. So
His first touch of the year was a fumble. We just recovered it.
And it was an amazing run. I mean, remember he hurdled the dude and then fumbled, and you're like, oh my gosh. And I think that hurt, like, it ended up hurting him the whole season because I think after that he was so conscious of not fumbling that he wasn't worried about trying to like make plays as much. So he was like, I'm just going to make
2 hands.
Yeah, and which is fine, which is good. I just, I think that sometimes you see one play by a guy and you see he does something amazing, and then the coaching staff and the fans and the other team all of a sudden know that they're like, oh crap, like, let's feed this guy. And I just felt like it really limited some of the stuff that he probably wanted to do, but he was just like, I'm going to be safe with it. Yeah, man, that was a bummer that went down like that.
I know.
I mean, to fumble and get injured on the first play.
It's crazy.
It was, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when I look at this backs list, obviously my favorite guys for the Broncos, we all know, are LaQuint Allen and Travion Henderson. And that's just because I think both of those guys, I always try to think about it like, okay, how do they fit in the scheme? Both of those guys are better at running the football than anyone that we have.
Yep.
They're just as good at pass pro as anyone, assuming Javante's gone. They can catch the ball better than any running back that we have. So, and that's a guarantee, like day one. So it's like I look at that as like that would be somebody that I just feel like the Broncos would want to make sense with rather than like a gadget guy. But who knows?
Yeah.
There's a lot of. I wanted to share this too. This is I'm kind of going a little bit everywhere, but this is crazy, and I don't know if you guys can see it. Maybe I'll zoom in a little bit. So this is a block that Kyle Monangai had in pass pro, and this blew my mind. I put this on my Twitter too. Watch him out of the backfield.
You don't get a chance to get on the sideline and talk about because you don't.
Are you able to see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. He just decks this linebacker, 245-pound linebacker, and puts him on his ass.
Yeah.
So check him out. I'm only showing that because I'm like, take a look at it. I think people will get really fired up about him too. But the running back situation is going to be fascinating, man.
Those guys that are the low center of gravity guys, they're like, they can do that kind of stuff.
Oh, I love it. I love a 5'9", 5'8" running back. Yeah, I do. That's like thick though.
With Travion, there was some ones like, so I looked at his size, I looked at the explosive plays, and I'm just like, but his size makes me worried about pass protection. And then I saw a couple of him in pass protection, and he was thumping some people, and I was just like, oh god, like sometimes the people are like willing blockers, like Philip Lindsay was like a willing blocker, but like he's 150 pounds soaking wet, like he's gonna get just destroyed. So even if the mind and the heart is there, he just doesn't have the frame for it. But like Henderson was like thumping some people, and I mean, is there that drastic of a difference of like 7 pounds to some of these other guys? Like you look at someone like Cam Scatabo. Yeah, you look at somebody like Cam Scatabo who's 215, and you go, oh, well, he's going to obviously thump people the way he runs, and he's going to block people really well. And then you see Henderson, and he's just so fast and quick and electric that you go, oh, well, I'm sure that he's not going to be able to handle the pass pro as much. And then you watch it, and you go, oh, no, I guess he can. Totally, because he was licking some people. So, yeah, there's some – there was a – and then you look at the people like the Hamptons and the Johnsons and the big frames, and you're like, oh, I'm not worried about them, standing in there. That's just it seems like that's the biggest thing. At least this season, Sean was so like, oh my gosh, I finally got the quarterback that I can kind of like call whatever I want or call like, he was so excited that, he's writing run it on the top of his play sheet because I think he was just so excited to be able to call stuff for Bo. But so it's a very, very, very important to get a running back that doesn't have to come off the field,
Yeah.
And I think that's the main thing when we're going into this draft. And yeah, like you said, if free agency, if we get like a Najee Harris or, Aaron Jones or whoever, if we get a guy that you don't have to worry about that and is a vet, then I have like less worry about it. But that's the kind of, I want a back who can just doesn't have to come off the field and, going to run hard, going to get those hard yards and be a weapon in the pass game, either blocking or receiving.
Yep. No, I agree. And I was trying to find the article where I read it at, but there was a scouting website that said, Trevion Henderson is the best pass blocking running back to come out of college in like the last decade, which that's really what turned my attention to him.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them that say like he's super elite, and then you'll see some that are like he needs to work on his pass blocking techniques.
Yeah,
so like,
right,
oh.
of course.
But yeah, I think that's going to be one of the biggest ideas about like the running backs that we draft in terms of them like contributing right away.
Right.
But yeah, just like David said, Rutgers is RBU. They put something in the water there, man. Greg Schiano's got those guys because I mean Isaiah Pacheco was like that when he was there. These guys are out of their minds, but
yeah,
he's so fun. I love this time of the year, man. It's a good time. Anyone else, regardless of position, that you feel like you want to just bring up or maybe have the listeners be able to look into that is a intriguing prospect for you?
Trying to think if I
and I'm listening. I'm an idiot and I forgot to grab my charger for my laptop, so it's about to die. So I'm gonna go run and grab it, but I can hear.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's like, I mean, looking at people, you immediately think of people like Judkins and stuff like that. He doesn't, to me, have a lot of creativity in his running. I love a running back personally that the vision is there because it gets with Javonte. That was the thing that just I wanted to pull my hair out every single time is when he's just running into the back of his own lineman when it looks like there's lanes both to the left and the right. So whatever running back, if we do draft one, that's a prerequisite for me is like a really guy who has really good vision. Let me see here. There's people like Xavier Estrepo, who is another slot guy that a lot of people really like. He doesn't seem as explosive, but just seems like one of those really solid, going to be in the league for 10 years type of guys. Let's see. DJ Giddens is another running back that I could see later that I really liked him a lot. They have him 104 overall right now, which is pretty high. He's a guy 6'1", 212, got some size to him, and he's someone.
Kodiak's on one. Hello.
What's that?
Kodiak is on. Stevie Wonder had better vision than running backs this year.
Oh my god, dude! Yeah, Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder, and I don't know what you want to. Who the third? I mean, I'm not even gonna say Jaleel. Jaleel had fine. He was fine. He had the best vision. And Audrick's actually like better than people think, but dude, just the Javonte vision stuff. Like the reason why he was such a good back is because he could run through so many people, and then as soon as the injury happened and he couldn't do that, like that was a wrap because he doesn't have the vision. That's why I like somebody who has like the vision can like extend your career like years because even if you slow down, you're still getting good yards. That was, and it's such a bummer too because I really like Javonte as a person and him coming out. He was one of the funnest players we had, and it's just a bummer. Let's see, I'm just checking the chat here.
Yeah, no, he's it's wild, man. I think he's such. Having Audrick on the roster is. I just know it's going to be frustrating. Just like having Javonte on the roster last year was frustrating. We talked about it before the season even started. It's like it just convolutes the running game. It's like, okay, like we can't just hope that Audric Estime is going to like become better because hope is not really a strategy. But
it's like, man, if he can become that guy that just is that physical running back that's good in pass pro, that's solid, and then all you would need is a speedster guy that like finds space and makes dudes miss. Then you're talking about a completely different running back in this draft class, and there's a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
So it's like that's why I feel like the safest bet is like you get somebody. That's why I just keep going back to Travion Henderson because the guy's he's so explosive. His vision is ridiculous. And then if you can if you can kind of run with Audric and then bring him in like the role that he's in now with Ohio State, shit, you're crushing it. You got a sick combo. If not, then you can lean on Travion more, and that's fine too. So that's why it's like, man, and then you still got Blake Watson and then Tyler Bidet. How much do you know Tyler Bidet? It's like I just really hope that if they're gonna clean out the running back room, they just do it. Like I like Tyler Bidet. I love Blake Watson. Y'all know that. But like sometimes you just gotta say, hey, you know what, man, we're going in this direction.
Yeah.
Because I don't want it to just be like the back and forth like we had this year. It's driving me crazy.
The thing, the most positive thing I can say about Audric is he's got the right build, attitude, all that stuff, and he was like the youngest guy in the draft, like this last season. So to be out on him, it's like to being out on people who are out on Franklin right now. It's like you gotta give him a little bit more of a gap, especially when you're that young. So I'm not out on Audric. Now the one thing I will say is if Sean's out or the other guys are out,
that's the problem. Let's
just learn. Like, part of it is not even Audric. It's just the fact that if you just know who Sean Payton is, he doesn't like to take 3 running backs and get them all work. It's just not in his like mindset of doing that. And he wants to call a game a specific way. And when he's like, oh yeah, and I got to remember to have the package that is for Audric, and oh yeah, I have to have this, and oh yeah, I have to. He wants to call it very specifically, and you're almost like you're negating some of his biggest strengths if you're trying to like, we got to get this guy reps, we got to get the third running back reps. That's why I'm so big on like, let's get him the dude that he just doesn't have to come off the field, and then let Sean cook, get some other guys in there, because I just feel like he loves different personnel packages and do all that stuff, but I just think him like constantly trying to like overthink himself of like, I got to get that third running back some reps, and then like at the end of the game everyone's like, what, he had one good run and then you took him out, why did that happen? It's like because he's not thinking that way. He's just not built that way. So you just got to kind of know who you are as like a play caller and the way you scheme the game.
Yeah, and it's just weird with him because it's like, I get it. I get that you want to call it a certain way. Like I really do understand it, but he doesn't do himself many favors because sometimes you just got to say, you know what, man, there's going to be bumps and bruises in the road, but we're going to commit to it. And if you look at his entire history, right, like he drafts Reggie Bush in the 2nd overall pick in his first year. Reggie Bush is like an unbelievable. He was one of probably the best college running back I've ever watched play. Yeah, he was unreal. And then amazing prospect, gets in the league, and then he uses him in like a secondary role. He like leaned on, I think, Pierre Thomas. And then he kind of just kept doing that where he was like 2 backs, but he wouldn't really like force feed one until Alvin Kamara came. And as a rookie, this dude's like, we're going to Alvin, man. We're going to get this guy like, 70 catches, 1,000 yards rushing. And then it's like, and then he just kind of went back to the basics with other guys, like when needed, like when Estime got hurt, he would lean in on like, I don't know if Mark Ingram was there at the time or that was after. They brought Mark Ingram back, like guys that he can trust. So it's one of those, like, I think everything that he says is 100% valid. And that's exactly why even though I really don't want this to happen, I just feel like we're going to sign Najee Harris and go into the offseason with that. Like he's going to go with somebody that he knows what he's going to get with him. Yeah. And he doesn't necessarily take him off the field.
Yeah.
And it's like, if it's going to be that guy, I don't know, man. Najee just doesn't really anything's an upgrade, but it's like, man, I just want more too. So I just feel like that's what's going to happen. He's going to go for a vet running back.
And here's the thing. If it's like a 2-year contract, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But don't sign Najee Harris, have Jeanty available, and then you pass on him because you just signed Najee Harris. Don't do that.
No.
You know what I mean?
Dude, if we had like, I mean, it's almost like could you imagine that combination? Like you have Najee Harris and Ashton Jeanty.
Right.
or Ashton Jeanty and really any like good running back. Like, dude, I think Detroit's really proven that, like, you had David Montgomery, who's a really damn good back, and then you draft Jameer Gibbs, and now you're just like disgusting. And it doesn't matter who the hell's running the football. You're not going to miss a beat. So, no,
Yeah.
for sure. And that's what I hope it's not. But I just feel like they're going to want to go in there and say, we're filling a need. And if a running back that we like is still there, you could definitely still take him, because Najee's not somebody that's going to make you, like, even in the second or third round, he's not going to be like, oh, we have Najee, so we don't need anyone else. But I just fear that's what happens. And I don't really think that. I think if you're going to go for it, go for dudes that find space and make guys miss and can take it to the house. I mean, just the threat of that changes how defenses play you. So
Here's the other thing that's interesting about where we're picking. We're picking 20, and what it would be 52 or whatever it is. I don't know.
something like that.
I feel like there's a really good chance Jeanty will be gone, and then you feel like the Omarion Hampton or Caleb Johnson, wherever you have RB2, you feel like it's too early. And then by the time you get to 52, like all the guys that you liked are not there anymore. So it's like we're almost in a weird spot to get an RB. Like you're almost too late in the first round and to give Jeanty, and too late to get the other guys in the second round. And so it'll be interesting to see if they try to trade back in that spot. It's a weird spot because
I think it's a big trade. I think it's a big possibility of trade back in this draft too.
And I honestly could see Sean Payton being like, oh, I freaking need Ashton Jeanty. Like, I need him, so I'll go up to, above the Cowboys and get him, or whoever. Like, Sean Payton's really, he's a smart dude. I could see him signing a veteran running back. Here's the thing. If I just like the psychology of like how coaches and certain people like maneuver. So when I learned a lot about Sean Payton last year when he said nothing about Bo Nix and said a lot about other people, I was like, okay, this dude is like, Elway would almost tell you what he wanted to do. Like he'd tell you too much. Sean Payton is like, I'm going to be, he enjoys the spy nature of it, I think. So if he signs a running back in free agency that everybody's like, oh, he's good, but like maybe, or maybe if he signs a running back in free agency and really, really, really talks him up, I think he likes a running back in the draft and he's trying to like throw people off the scent. I could see that for sure, just because the way he likes to maneuver.
Yeah.
And it might just be one of those things where he's drafting or he's signing a guy because he doesn't know how the draft's going to fall and you don't want to put yourself in a bad position. But it's just an interesting spot where we're at because 20, it's like, yeah, if you love Colson Loveland, you could probably get him at 20. But if you might be able to get him at 30. I don't know. So
yeah, you have to really kind of maneuver that. And you know what I was thinking too. I mean, maybe like in a situation where Bo is in his second year, he's more comfortable. We already know he gets the ball out of his hands quickly, but it's going to be even faster.
Yeah.
And if you can get weapons that can actually get open consistently in the pass game, to where you don't have to, you're not going to have those moments where maybe Bo needs an extra second before he throws it. Then you're not relying. Then you don't care so much about the running back's ability to pass pro.
Could be.
And then it becomes a different story, because that could have been a big part of it too. Like, just like Kodiak said, the games where Javonte got doghoused and you still felt like you saw him too much. It's almost like Sean Payton felt like pass protection was so unbelievably important.
Yes.
That he would sacrifice a run game in order to put him in. Because, towards the end of the year, you knew if Javonte was in the game, they're throwing the ball. So it was a huge tell, but it's almost like he's a smart enough coach to realize, I know we're tipping our hand, but it's worth it, because if it's going to be a little bit of a slower developing play, or like if these guys need a little bit extra time to get open, we're going to need Javonte to bail them out. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of times Javonte did bail them out. And there's times where Javonte blew somebody up and it bought Bo an extra like half second to be able to get the ball off. But
yeah, as much as we
like,
didn't like Javonte,
sometimes guys are just not getting open, dude. They just weren't.
Exactly. Like you'd see something like, you'd wait till like the tape would come out after the game and you'd watch somebody's cut out and you go, he had a window of like 1 second and he was looking at somebody else. And it's like, well, if you don't hit that one guy at that one exact second, he had nothing. And then he's scrambling around and doing whatever. Like the one thing, yeah, I will give Javonte credit, and the reason why he played so much, and it was so frustrating. But like you're right, he was the one guy that Sean Payton absolutely trusted to like do his job back there.
He was elite. He was elite. I mean, he was an elite at pass protecting. He really is.
Yeah,
He's phenomenal at it.
yeah,
I was actually surprised how good he was.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't really care if we're running for, 40, if Bo Nix is our leading rusher every game,
right.
you've got to give it a little bit. And I agree. And I'm so glad that David brought this up because I was going to touch on Franklin earlier. Anybody that's down on Franklin, it's like, do you guys have the shortest memory? People
Yes.
were talking about this guy not even making the team. He
Right.
was awful in camp. Like he was a pleasant surprise for me. And what I really liked about him is the fact that like, they kept rolling him out. So Sean Payton obviously trusts him. The dude like tries his ass off, which is all you can ask for a rookie. So he's bought in. I think he's gonna make huge strides from year 1 to year 2. I mean, you're gonna see a significantly better player in Franklin. The thing is though, is like, is he an X or is he a slot? Where does he fit?
Right.
But I think he's going to be way more refined and a lot better going into next year too. And he's got to put some weight on too a little bit, which he will.
Like exactly what David's saying in his next comment about take away his name in school. That's exactly what it is. He was like, everybody thinks it's a disappointment because we saw what he did with Bo at Oregon. So you think it's immediately going to translate over. But there's so much that he has to learn. And here's the thing. A lot of people over hyped him as far as like they were like he's going to be like back end round 1, top end round 2, and then he goes to the 4th and people go, oh my gosh, we got this first round pick and we got him like in the 4th round. And I was like, well, maybe he is a 4th round pick, and just because he played with Bo doesn't mean he's going to be able to like come into an NFL offense, especially one as complicated as Sean Payton's, and like he's a rookie. Like if you just go back and look, I mean, it's the greatest Denver receivers we've ever had. Almost none of them did anything their rookie year. Like the Brandon Marshall, Eric Deckers, like over and over, like all these people and Demaryius Thomas, people that ended up being awesome. Like we just had over hyped expectations.
Big time.
And it's not fair to him. And like, again, if he was 23 or something and you're like, what the heck? Like you look at Vele and you go, oh my gosh, what a steal in the 7th round. Like you're a genius for drafting. Well, he's 26 years old. Like he's just
and
way
their
more
stats
mature.
weren't even that much different, believe it or not.
Yeah, and
But, like,
I mean,
you look at last year's draft, and I was having this argument the other day. Like you look at the guys drafted in the 2nd and the 3rd round, even right, guys that were like A.D. Mitchell was solid. He didn't have like an unbelievable year, but he was really good. But like Malachi Corley, people talked about him maybe being in the 1st round.
Yeah.
He goes in the 3rd. I don't really think he did shit for the Jets this year. And then Jermaine Burton from Alabama, I don't even know if he played at all for the Bengals. Roman Wilson, somebody a lot of people hyped up, didn't do shit for the Steelers.
well, he was hurt, but
So just like David said, I mean, he's absolutely on par. Jalen McMillan was an absolute stud in the 3rd round there.
Mhm.
Then you get into the 4th, right? I mean, Luke McCaffrey, this is like the 3rd with the compensatory. He didn't do as much as Franklin did this year.
more special teams this year.
Yeah, Javon Baker, somebody a lot of people were high on, didn't really do much for the Patriots, and they were awful. I remember people were talking about Tez Walker like he was a really, really good player. He had 1 catch. It was for a touchdown, though. He had 1 catch all year. So it's like, yeah, dude, he's right on par. It's just what kills you is that you could have gotten this guy over here, Bucky Irving, which is annoying.
Well, I want to say, didn't he go at the very end of round 3? So like,
No, he went round 4.
did he?
Mm-hmm. So we essentially could have. I mean, because we traded up to get Troy Franklin, we would have probably had to trade up again and get Bucky Irving. I was hoping he'd fall to 5, but he didn't.
Yeah, here's the thing that people were like, "Oh, I'm out on Bucky Irving. I don't think he's that fast. It's Oregon offense." Wow. Like, all I saw him do at Oregon was make guys miss constantly, and it was like that translates. If you can make people miss over and over and over and over again, like, you can probably do that at the next level too. Like, it's not one of those things that you're just like, oh, I forgot how to do that. Yeah,
Yep.
that's I have a lot of high hopes still for Troy Franklin. I am not giving up. And like Kodiak said, him making that touchdown catch in the Bills game, I felt like that was what we've been waiting for the whole season, right? And then when he finally does it, I feel like almost that's the kind of thing he needed to do for his own confidence.
Big time.
Sometimes it just takes one or two plays. Like, I always go back to like the glory days of the Broncos, but like Terrell Davis was not going to be on the team anymore if it wasn't for very specific circumstances in Tokyo. They were playing a game in Tokyo. He could not get a flight home. He goes
He's about
out.
to quit.
Yeah, he was about, I mean, literally, if it was in a English speaking country anywhere else, he's not probably, you have no idea who Terrell Davis even is,
Yeah.
And the fact that it took one play on special teams in that game where people are like, whoa, who's that guy? Just gets his chance. And then he ends up going to the freaking Hall of Fame. Like, that's just one of those, like, it just can happen like that where you just got to make that one play. You got to get over that one hump mentally. And then all of a sudden it's on. So
Yeah.
I could see Troy Franklin, like, I'm so glad he made that big play because I want him to go into the off season just like optimistic and working his butt off. And,
Yeah.
that's what's hard about this in this draft because you see like these guys and you go, oh man, we lacked this last season. But it's up to the coaches and to see like, how much confidence do we have in year 2 of this person? Because like Vele's going to be better. Franklin's going to be better. Look at Mims finally took the jump. It's just, you don't want to like go, well, we didn't have it, so we need to have it in the draft this year. And then you're just like shooting yourself. Like you're just right before the guy's about to break out, you're like quitting on him or you're changing your mindset on him. So that's going to be like the real big thing for Sean is how much confidence does he have in these guys where he's confident in not drafting the same type of player who he likes because he has confidence that Franklin or whoever is going to step up. And I do. I have big confidence in Troy Franklin. I mean, I've seen him do it. You know what I mean? I saw him be exceptional in college with Bo. So it's not like I'm like, oh, it's one. I don't like it when I see like people drafting just because they're athletes and they're like, athletically I can, and then they have like the coaches have the thing where they're like, I can make him into something. And yeah, sometimes you can do that with like a Julius Thomas or somebody like that in the short term. But it's like some people just know how to play football. They just have that thing where it's like that dude's a really good football player and the measurables or the speed or whatever doesn't match up. I've seen Troy Franklin be a very, very good football player. So I'm not like worried that it's like, oh, we just drafted a speed guy. And we're like, how many times did Elway do that? Where it's just like, oh my gosh, this guy's
KJ
super
Hamler.
athletic.
Yeah.
Well, KJ, I mean, but like, what was the dude that we drafted? He like didn't even play like one game. I think he was like a second rounder. I can't even remember his name, but we would constantly be drafting corners or drafting like receivers that it's like, oh my gosh, this guy tested crazy. But then
Yeah,
it's
we
like,
drafted. I know who you're talking about. He ended up going to the Giants and having like a decent career before his career ended. But he was like an elite special
Yes,
teams player for us. But he was dog shit.
yeah, Law Tech, that Louisiana Tech, that's the dude I'm talking about. Yeah,
Oh, you're thinking Law Tech? No, I'm thinking of somebody else. There was a few of them, man. There was a lot.
are
Of
you
like,
thinking Isaiah McKenzie when he went to the Bills?
no, Isaiah McKenzie, I know was one. There was another guy that was a speed guy from La Tech. The guy that I'm thinking of was a big dude, but he was fast. He blew up at the combine. And I
Yeah.
swear to God, his name's on the tip of my tongue. And he wore number 14 before Sutton did. And he used to like, I used to fucking cuss at the screen because he would drop everything. But then he became like a super good special teamer. So we're like, whatever.
Yeah.
What was his name? Cody Latimer.
Oh, Latimer. Yeah, of course. He was from Indiana. Yeah.
Cody Latimer.
And
Yeah,
the thing
but-
that killed him, Carlos Henderson. Thank you, David. That's
Carlos
it.
Henderson.
Dude,
Carlos
that guy,
Henderson.
it's just like, I don't want to draft those dudes. I want to draft freaking good football players. You know what I mean? I will take a little less like testing and have just get a guy who's really freaking good at football. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. Latimer, dude. He was one of those guys that you see the athleticism, you go, oh my gosh, this guy could really be something. And then you throw him in the offense with Peyton Manning, and Peyton Manning's like, get that freaking guy off the field because he ran the wrong route again. And it's just like, yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's like, you know, we all do this for fun. We're all like watching just like this stuff, and you go, oh, this guy looks athletic. This guy looks this. We don't know the personality. We don't know how much he loves actually playing football. We don't know. You know, that's the thing that people about Bo Nix, that people just totally just poo-pooed the whole time when he was coming in. He's like, you just don't understand how much this dude wants to be great. I want people that want to be great. Like, and that's what they like. Their passion is football. Those are the types of guys that, you know, Sean Payton, those guys are just going to end up being like those long-term guys that we have. I don't want drafting off of like, let's take a chance on this guy because he's athletic. I mean, I understand why you do that sometimes. Like Greg Dulcich is a good example. Like the guy, when he played, but like he had the injury concerns, and the drops, and it just didn't seem like, oh, this guy is just burning to get on the field and play football. I mean, I'm not saying he's not, but you know, the Paxton Lynch's, it's just a bad mentality to draft people off of like that kind of a stuff. Oh, Deontay Spencer, man. Everybody, we're pulling out the
We're pulling out the old school, just a bunch of dudes. Like we're like, oh, this guy played in like the CFL or whatever. Let's see if he can do it. I agree. It's all about, you know, signing the big time. You know, the guys that can just ball out. It's not about the testing, the measurables. And I feel like the league is starting to catch on to that. Like a dude blows up at the combine, and you're like, yeah, but you know, is he good? You know, and it was the guy that broke the 40 record before it was Xavier Worthy. He ended up getting drafted like early as shit by the Bengals. And I think that was like the nail in the coffin for all teams. They're like, you know, if the tape doesn't match it, there's probably a reason for it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you need to get guys, but like even going back to like, for example, Xavier Worthy, right? I mean, he fits in a certain scheme. It's all about the fit. Or like Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving is a beast, but is he as good as he is if Rashad White's not the other back that they can just mix in and out seamlessly, right? Because like if he's the only guy you have and you have to rely on him in pass pro, then maybe he's not who he is. So it's like I would have liked Bucky Irving, but how would he have fit here? I mean, would he have just been, you know, getting, you know, 5 touches a game and then you're just like annoyed? It's like, yeah. So
I have a feeling if we had Bucky Irving, Bo Nix knows exactly, like those two, he's just gonna he might catch like
I feel like
9 receptions a game. You know what I mean? Like,
do you think after we traded up and got Franklin and we saw Bucky Irving, we're like, dude, can we like the front office was like, we can't have 3 Oregon Ducks. Like, you can basically have the whole offense at that point.
It would have been interesting. Like, here's the thing: is going into that draft, it's like everybody was like, "Oh, Troy Franklin's like back end round 1, top 2, and Bucky Irving might be there in the 4th or 5th." And then it was like, I just think that they probably had those guys. They're probably similar, but like, yeah, people didn't think Bucky Irving was very fast, so that was the thing with him. Like front, like end end speed, just like straight lane speed, but you watched when we played Tampa, you was like, oh my gosh, that dude looks insane, you know? And
he's so good, man.
Yeah, I mean, electric. So
yeah, because you run to 4.55 in the combine at you know 159, 192, and everyone, you know, freaks out. But
George Payton, I think, does a good job of figuring. I mean, for the most part, like he's had his misses, whatever. Everybody does. But I think that he's done a good job of filling out like, this guy likes football. This guy cares about it. You know, people paying out. Oh, Chad Kelly.
Dude, the chat right now.
It was just a matter. Yeah. Chad Kelly, dude, to show off. It was just a matter of time. It was just a matter of time for he like detonated his own like career. Like, let's be honest.
Did you see him snap his leg?
No.
In the CFL or whatever, this dude, somebody lands, his leg snaps, his ankle is like this, and he literally just looks at it and he goes, my leg's broken. I'm like, oh, that guy's out of his fucking mind, dude.
Yeah. You can see it in his eyes. Like, to be honest, we should have seen it. Like as soon as you see it in his eyes, he had the pedigree, and we didn't like, you know, invest very much in him. And it was basically like a favor to Jim Kelly, I think, is kind of what it was. But
Mhm.
yeah, Chad Kelly, just one of those guys that just like, if he had Bo Nix's brain, like the sky's the limit. Who knows what he could do, you know? But like he doesn't. He's Chad Kelly. He's like just a different type of dude, you know? He's like Baker Mayfield if like Baker is actually like
He's a
loves
sober
football.
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like Baker Mayfield who
Oh,
doesn't
he's
love
a
football.
non-sober Baker.
Right,
I guess
yeah.
Baker's a sober Chad Kelly.
Right, exactly. It's just,
Oh, well, man, I think we should wrap it up. We've been going for a minute, but this has been awesome. Jeremy, I appreciate you guys. All you guys in the chat were killing me, man. You guys brought me down memory lane. We're talking about we went from talking about like Tyler Warren and Ashton Jeanty to, Deontay Johnson, Broncos legend Chad Kelly, Montrell Washington, the guy that we took over Isaiah Pacheco and a bunch of other guys is crazy. So,
and I think the Montreal one was like he was that one coach, the one special teams coach was like, please just get me this one dude. I believe in this one dude. And like Payton just
he was a scout, I think. I think they fired his ass.
Yeah, well,
They're like, really, dude, you're bring us this guy? All right.
Well, it's always a bad sign when you draft a guy in the 5th round and like the first thing he says to the media is, I was so surprised that I got drafted. And you're like, oh, that's not good.
You're like, oh, damn. Yeah, we should
Dwayne
revisit that.
Stukes.
That's not good.
Dude, Dwayne Stukes sounds like a character on like Bloodsport. Like
Dwayne Stukes was like, dude, he would just like yell all the time at special teams, but like not know how to coach special. It's wild.
oh, speaking of real quick, it looks like we're losing our assistant GM to the Jets. We fired our special teams coach, who I felt like our special teams, besides the blocked field goal, was pretty darn good. I was raving about it all year of like, thank God we finally have a competent special teams. I mean, Marvin Mims goes all pro. So do you think like Rizzy is like locked in as long as he doesn't get a head job, like to be our guy? Cause he pretty much told the Bears that, wasn't it the Bears that was really trying to get him?
Yeah, that he wasn't going to go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the whole reason that Katuika was fired is because we felt like we could upgrade. It wasn't like, oh, you're bad. It's more like we know we can get better. And worst case scenario, Chris Banjo, the assistant, it can be just as competent, maybe even better as an up and coming and like developing the coach. But I think Darren Rizzi is a lock. I think the only reason it hasn't happened yet is because he's just holding out the tiny bit of hope that maybe he can coach for New Orleans.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like, and it could be because New Orleans is they're the last team to not have a coach, and I think they're probably just waiting to interview like Joe Brady. I heard, and then from there they'll make a decision. But I don't foresee them hiring Darren Rizzi. If that's not the case, yeah. I mean, why wouldn't he want to come here? He knows he's going to have a really solid unit in general. He's familiar with Sean Payton, and he was the highest paid special teams coach in New Orleans, and it's not going to be an issue. We can pay him whatever he wants. So
right, yeah, that's one of those underrated things that people just like. We can't talk about it enough of like where we were with our ownership to now where we are. Is like of course, if he gets a head coaching job, we're not getting him. Of course, he's not going to be like, I'd rather be the special teams coach in Denver than the head coach in New Orleans. Like nobody's going to do that unless they're like really don't like the fit, but he's already in New Orleans, so I don't think that's going to be the thing. But if it's us and somebody else vying for a coach, vying for somebody at a certain position, as long as it's like all pretty much even across the board, our ownership can be the difference every single time. And that's what's so exciting because, not only
and you got
does
to
he
think
have
too, man. Like he's coming into a situation where he's familiar with Will Lutz. He knows that Will Lutz is one of the better kickers. Riley Dixon's a solid punter, so he doesn't have to worry about like that aspect. And we've already got a good unit,
and we've got
so
Marvin
he can
Mims
just
as
come
an
in and make it
all-pro.
better. Yeah, exactly. We've got an all-pro Marvin Mims, so it's like people don't think a lot about special teams coaches. And to be honest with you, man, I think it's kind of a joke. Like I don't really know how you can be a bad special teams coach. It kind of blows my mind. Like if you can't cover kicks, just kick the goddamn ball out of bounds. It's so weird to me. Just max protect block every time. You can be conservative and like be fine. But
what was
yeah, I mean Darren Rizzi, dude. I was looking at his history. Like he's been regarded as like one of the better special teams, but he like
Yeah.
most amount of blocked field goals and punts. The dude is ridiculous. He'd be drawing some crazy stuff up, and he did a good job as the head coach there as the interim.
Yeah.
Too. So yeah, sign me up for whatever the hell he wants. Bring him in, and it'll be good. I'm curious to see who we're gonna if we're gonna add anybody to the front office to for Darren Muji leaving.
Right. When you said I don't know how you'd be a bad special teams coach, I don't know, but we had a string of them, and they were talking about it in the
I know.
chat. There was like, oh my god, Tom McMahon. I just wanted. And then what was the crazy
He's
guy
still
that we
employed.
had? What was the guy we got the assist? He was the assistant.
I always forget his
basically.
name from Kansas City.
Yeah.
The 22 Janos guy.
Yes. What was his name?
He
Please say.
he ended up like surprisingly getting a job the next year with Miami, and then he'd never coached in the NFL again.
Really? Is that what happened?
Never. Yeah. I was looking. I forgot his name. His name was annoying.
Yeah, it was. It's on the tip of my tongue too. Brock Olivo. Thank
Brock
you.
Olivo. Nice.
Oh my. Yeah, dude. Oh my, that dude. Every press conference was just a wild ride with Brock Olivo, and then you'd go out and see him play, and you're like, "Have these guys played football before? Like, how is it this disoriented? Like, that's the thing where it's like when like the Traymon Smiths, and you need a certain amount. You need those one guys to really like lead a unit, I guess. But man,
So could you be mentored by like arguably one of the greatest special teams coaches like in history of the NFL, and Dave Tobe?
I know.
In Kansas City. Be mentored by him for like years, and then literally not know what you're doing.
Yeah.
No idea.
That's really incredible. It's like being like the assistant to like Kyle Shanahan and Mark Shanahan, and just like not knowing how to like coach offense. It's like how?
Yeah, but and this is special teams. Like,
right.
Bro, I'm telling you, like if you just wanted to have an okay special teams unit where no one's talking about you, you go out there. All you have to do is focus all your attention on scouting like the best kicker you can possibly get and a solid punter, and then always kick the ball out of bounds. Always punt the ball out of bounds. You'll be fine. That's all that matters. That's literally it.
Do you think there is any chance we'd try to upgrade Riley Dixon? Because he kind of has had a stretch there that was. The thing that drives me nuts about punters in Denver is like we never get the punter that is like the humongous leg. It seems like they come to Denver and then they go, oh, I'm gonna stop doing leg day. Like I don't understand.
Yeah. I really want the guy. They call him like the punt god, Ariza.
Oh gosh, dude, I wanted him so bad.
Great charges, and then they got cut, and I was like, oh my god, if these gets cleared from this shit, like sign him.
Yes,
because he's amazing. Here's the thing about Riley Dixon. I thought he was really solid all year, though, man, because he doesn't have a huge leg, but he would constantly pin teams inside the 20. I think he led the NFL in punts inside the 20. He was good enough, but I think if we sign him back, it's going to be to like a vet minimum, and we're going to have somebody come in and compete with him.
Yeah. I just always want the guy with the leg when we're in Denver. It's like I want to flip a field where it's like if we go 3 and out at the 20, I want to flip that field, Trevor Ariza.
my favorite part of the preseason, we brought in that one punter that used to kick for the Bears to compete.
Oh,
and then afterwards they ended up like doing all the cuts, and somebody was asking Sean Payton about it. He's like, yeah, that competition really wasn't close. Like he just flat out said it. Like he's
right. I remember that.
He's like, oh, all right. Well, why the hell did you keep him around for so long? Like he was just like, it wasn't even close. You're like, oh shit. Well, that guy must have been terrible.
He was a camp leg. Well, I remember the punter we got from the Raiders, and then we immediately were like, hey, I know you were just like in the Pro Bowl for punting, but we're gonna change everything you do. And then he was like, screw that, I'm not doing that. And then he ended up fighting with people and like the special like in the on the coaching staff, and
and he talked to 104.3 The Fan, Zach By. It was like one of his first weeks on radio, and he was answering the questions like with one, and he just hangs up on him, and like, dude, you're a punter. Like, what the hell's wrong with this guy?
He's like the Kanye West of punting, dude.
He was exactly.
Yeah,
he was exactly
like, I don't
the
know
Kanye West of punting.
What is this? Last name was King. I can't remember his first name.
Marquette King. Yeah.
Marquette, yeah. Dude, it was just like, man. Yeah, you can't be mad at like Riley Dixon when you see guys like that, but just like, man, I can't even remember us having like a top tier punter. It seems like other teams come to play Denver, and then all of a sudden their punter is like, oh my gosh, they're salivating, and then they just boom everything. And it's like, how come every other team like loves playing in Denver except for our guy is just, hey, it's a net 40
Yeah,
yarder, and you're like, all right.
yeah, but it's crazy because I noticed a lot of guys. There was man, who was it? There was one team that sucked that we played, but they had a sick punter. I think it was Carolina.
Yeah,
They punted like 50 times. This dude would bomb like 70 yarders, but they'd always go out of the back of the end zone. You
right.
know, I think that's what drives special teams
Yeah,
coaches would rather be like, dude, I'd rather you punt it 45 yards and it land on the 15
yeah.
than punt it out of bounds.
It's like having a pitcher who can throw 100 miles an hour but has absolutely like no
And nothing,
like.
yeah.
Well,
But I mean,
he has like no. He has no control over it. It's
yeah.
just
But I mean, I'd be down to like have some young, up and coming, brand new, like never punted in the NFL before guy and like develop them. I love that kind of shit.
yeah, yeah.
But
It would
if
be
they suck,
interesting
I
to
hate
see.
it.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see if we get Rizzy. Like that'd be big. Yeah, I felt like it was kind of interesting. I said to you guys, you and David, texting was just like, I just found that the firing the day after the season ended was like strange because it was like you better have. And then when Rizzy became available, you go, oh, that's why. But then it was like, oh, he might not come here. There's other options, and other people really want him. And
Yeah.
I was like, you could have just waited. But I guess that looks. I don't know. I guess like you said, I think it's Banjo as your back burner option, and Rizzy is like plan A. So
I just feel like Sean Payton is so confident. Like I feel like he had to call Rizzy and be like, "Hey, dude, this and that." They had a verbal agreement, and they're like, "If you don't
right,
end up getting the job, like a head coaching job,
yeah,
I can't see another situation."
yeah.
But
I mean
like I
that's
said, I'd be cool with Banjo too because I love it when we elevate coaches
yeah,
to I take pride in it. I'm not even the guy doing it. I'm like hell yeah, like I like it when coaches get an opportunity like that, especially like a dude that was just playing. He's 34 years old or 32 even maybe. He was like just recently playing. He got some good tutelage from like one of the best coaches in that old Mike Westhoff. So that'll be interesting too. So I think we'll see.
yeah, yeah. The Westhoff thing was him leaving like right after the Kansas City game. We got blocked. It was just interesting timing.
It was it was
So
interesting,
I,
but
I
it's like
I wish him well. Hopefully,
yeah, he was like 80 years old, man.
I know. And then
Walking around with a
here
cane and
comes.
shit.
Speaking of older coaches, here comes Pete Carroll into the AFC West. That's the last guy. I'm like, finally, just screw Seattle. I freaking hate Seattle. Like, we're done with Seattle. We're done with Russ. We're done with Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's done. Russ is done. Whatever. And here he freaking comes back
Watch
again,
it. Russ is gonna go to Las Vegas. Watch.
dude. Chomping that gum. Yeah, no, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
I'll say though,
And
man, I wish I was 73 in the shape he's in. Because
absolutely,
that boy,
absolutely, that's
that
goals right
man.
there. Like, I he's got more energy than I do. He's got like college energy. Like man, remember when he like left Seattle and he was just like basically told the media like I I wanted the job still. I basically like they didn't let me have it anymore, but yeah.
They like elevated him to like the front office
Right. Just to save
and
face.
then moved him off. But yeah, he's one of those coaches where like I really like and respect him, but I also like can't stand him. And it's the gum smacking. It's the on the sidelines that drove me nuts.
Yeah.
But man, that dude is good. But the AFC West, we just can't catch a break, dude. The AFC in general is like so stacked. I was thinking about this the other day. You know who the best quarterback in the NFC is, in my opinion?
Hmm.
Matthew Stafford.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Like
so. Like,
that's crazy. But there's like 7 quarterbacks better than him in the NFL that are all in the AFC. It's like,
well,
dude, can we get some of these guys out?
yeah, it's like look at what happened with the Lions. Is like the Rams gave up everything to get Matt Stafford, got Goff, but with what they got from using Stafford, they end up creating this great team around him. But when it comes down to the clutch, like, do you want Goff or do you want Stafford? It's just one of those
I
things.
love Matthew Stafford, man. They say he might
Yeah,
retire, but that dude is
he's a
like he's
beast,
still
man.
somehow so underrated, but hell of a player.
Yeah,
I actually see a lot of Matthew Stafford and Bo Nix.
yeah. Matthew Stafford just has like he's not as intense. And he's definitely not as athletic, but like
He was.
he
When he was
was
younger.
when he
Yeah.
was younger. Yeah, he's just. I guess I see him now, but yeah. Speaking of Pete Carroll, I think we need to drug test his gum. I think that's what it is. Something's in that gum. There's some
Yeah.
Adderall
They got
on
some
speed or
amphetamines or
something.
something.
Yeah, something going on there. Yeah, no, I hear you. Like, I can see why they like sold out. Sean McVay was like, just give me Matt Stafford. I do like we were talking in our little group chat about the coaches that are in the AFC West now, and it's crazy. But you know, I'm not hoping for any of this to happen. But it's like it seems like every year Andy Reid, they ask him if he's retiring, and I don't know where that comes from. I don't know why you just ask people that. Just so, like they win, and then they're like, "Are you going to retire now?" And it's like, "Well, why would he's a football coach? Why he doesn't need to like." But they always seem to be like leave that out there. So I don't know where that comes from. So that might be a thing that if
Well,
he
he's
wins a
like
third,
older, but he's like not in good shape either. And
to
maybe
say
like,
the
dude,
least.
if you're gonna retire off a freaking three-peat,
Right? Yeah, I mean
I mean,
that's the ultimate
that's how
walk
you do
off.
it.
I hope that doesn't happen, but
But yeah, I
and
agree. He needs to retire for obesity.
um,
Oh
and
man,
then but then you have Pete Carroll now coming in, and he's gonna be like 74, 75 next season. Like it's insane. Like, but
yeah,
again,
Sean Payton's the youngest coach in the AFC West
that's
by 3 days or 5 days.
he's younger than Harbaugh. No,
By 5 days, yeah. I read about it today. They're
I
both
didn't think
61.
Harbaugh was that old. I
Yeah,
remember him playing, so that's why I just don't even think that.
yeah.
Um,
Jim Harbaugh 61. No, well,
damn. And then, but the thing with Harbaugh is like, remember he had like the heart issues, and anytime I see that, I think of Kubiak, and I'm like, that's why he stepped away from the 49ers when he did, and then he's now as soon as he goes back to the NFL, he's having it again. It's like I just don't see that. That's not a good recipe long term.
yeah.
Those things are not. I don't know what it is about that job. I mean, I can imagine, but like, it just grinds on certain people for whatever reason, and it's just interesting that this year those are four great coaches, two or three Hall of Fame coaches at least, and maybe and who knows what Harbaugh's going to do eventually.
Dude,
But
I was just thinking about this, Kodiak. I think we should do an after dark, dude. And
yeah,
we just make a show once a week, like it starts at 10 p.m. and everybody's just hammered and drinking and talking shit in the group chat. We'll do that. We'll do Marky Sports after dark or Broncos talk after dark or something like that. That'd be fun.
it'll be one episode.
You guys are all
and
invited too.
We'll
You
all
can
get
have like seven.
demonetized.
You can have like the Octo box and just everyone talking shit. I love
Yeah.
it. I love
would-
it. I'm
it
down
would-
too.
It creates the problem is people will like tune in at 11 a.m. the next morning and be like, what the heck were these dudes? But it'd be fun. It'd be fun.
If you guys are tuning in the morning, apologies because. And if you just like everyone just like you just see us progressively get drunker, like I would make chapters like sober, buzz,
Yeah.
hammered,
2 drinks in,
Just-
4 drinks in. Yeah.
Oh man. Well guys, it was real. This was one of my favorite live episodes. Jeremy, I appreciate it, man. I can't believe we went almost 2 hours. The chat was lit. I could have done this shit for another 10 hours.
I know. I want Kodiak.
But I'm
You're
this
right.
uncomfortable ass chair, so I'm like, shit, I gotta get a nice chair for here.
I know. I'm like, I want Kodiak and David in the 4 box. That we could really go off. That
We gotta do it. We will. We'll do like a wild mock draft after dark, and it'll just be like with trades, and it'll be like the craziest, just entertainment for everybody.
Perfect.
Cool, my
That's
guys. Well,
awesome.
everyone in the chat, appreciate it. Be sure to check out David's channel if you're not already. And if you love to, college tape, getting access to all 22 films broken down by players, he's the man to go see and go get that with the subscription, man. It's dope stuff. So be sure to check that out. And go Broncos as always. Y'all have a wonderful night, and we'll talk to y'all later.
All right.
Peace out.
See you guys.